Hey, what's happening everybody? My name's Jon Denton and welcome to another episode of State of Play. On this week's show I'm going to be talking about the madness of March 2017, about my pile of shame, about picking your gaming battles. Okay, welcome to this week's episode. Now, I was planning on talking about the Destiny 2 reveal trailer for this episode, but then it turned out to just be another cartoon, so there's basically nothing to say. So I kind of racked my brain about what to say and what to talk about, and I realised that the nature of doing this and the nature of doing YouTube in a kind of very much part-time basis, which is what's happening right now, I don't have time to review in a way that I'd like to a game like Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild, or even a game like Recon Wildlands, just because they're so massive, and the time it takes to dedicate to a game like that to do a good job of reviewing it just isn't really practical at the moment, which is a shame. But I also want to make sure that I am talking about those games and other games to camera, which is another reason that I do this show. So in the last couple of weeks, the subjects that I've talked about have been reasonably controversial, especially last week's show on Colin Moriarty, and do check that out if you want to hear my thoughts on that and free speech. But this one's going to just be a little bit more game focused. So this March has been crazy. It has to have been the craziest March ever. I mean, surely. Not only has there been a slew of amazing games, there's also been a console launch. I can't remember any month that's been quite this mental, apart from, you know, the Novembers and Decembers and Octobers that major consoles have been released in the past few years, and certainly not a time at the beginning of the year when it's been pretty difficult to keep up with everything. And my pile of shame, I'm upset to say, is just growing ever larger. My pile of shame, which includes half of Dark Souls 2, it includes Dark Souls 3 and Bloodborne's DLC. It still includes Fallout 4, which I've got set back there, still in its wrapper. I've never even opened that game, which is appalling. It's an appalling thing to say. And then, come this March, I managed to get some time with For Honor. I played Wildlands and Zelda. I haven't touched Horizon Zero Dawn. I don't own that game. There's games like Nier Automata, which by all standards of what I like in video games sounds like my perfect thing. It's platinum, it's action, it's interesting, it's quirky. There's just no time. I really want to check out Neo. And then there's smaller games. I managed to spend some time with Future Unfolding after hearing recommendations about that. Wasn't actually that keen on it, but did manage to get some time with it, thankfully. And then of course there's Mass Effect Andromeda, which I played the first maybe 90 minutes of and I wasn't too keen on, but by any other standard, by any other time, I would of course dedicate some time to that. Now I'm hearing Persona 5, something that's not necessarily my cup of tea, but something, given the reviews it's got, I feel interested in and feel like it's almost my professional duty to at least check out or examine. But it's impossible, right? It's absolutely impossible. And as the density of releases just gets more and more crazy, I mean, yes, we're used to it at the back end of the year, but if this is what it's going to be like from late February through to March every year now, there's no way of keeping up. Whether you're talking about games on podcasts or channels or just with your friends, or you're just, you're a professional, you have a job, you're a student, it doesn't matter what you're doing. There's no way of playing all of this stuff unless you literally just forego everything else in your life just to dedicate them to games. And when games are like something like Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild, a game that I would estimate I'm about 25% of the way through, and I just don't want to rush. I don't want to rush for the purposes of writing or speaking a review. It seems unnecessary. And I hark back to when I was young and games did used to take me months, even when, not necessarily as a child, just as a young adult. Games like Metal Gear Solid 2, I think, probably took me a good 4 to 6 weeks to finish. Silent Hill 2 took me nearly a month. Short games, I mean, you could probably sit down and do them in a couple of days, realistically, but just with everything else going on, with the amount of time that I played, these things would take the time, and I'd also spatter in a lot of Pro Evo in that time, some fighting games as well. And that's what's been happening with me at the moment. I've been completely and utterly obsessed with Rocket League. Any realistic multiplayer time has been spent playing that across both Xbox and PS4. Long story short, there's no way of playing all this stuff. I'm very much looking forward to playing Horizon Zero Dawn at some point. I don't know when that'll be. And I think it just becomes, you can get a kind of weird level of anxiety from having a pile of shame. It's low level. But it's the same low level as like forgetting to pay one kind of insignificant bill, or forgetting, one little thing on your to-do list, which is the most boring thing to do for work, and you just keep putting it off. Tiny things, they're not big things that are going to really impact your life. But thinking about all of those games that you have stacked up that you're supposed to finish by some sort of measure of standard, I don't even know what. Do you get that as well? Just that little anxiety, oh man, I really do need to get to Dark Souls 3, oh man, I really do need to get to Neo, or something like that, and I kind of find it uncomfortable. So the way I've dealt with it in the past is that if I can spend some time with the game and I really don't like it, is to get it out of the house, just go and trade it in straight away, which is a ridiculous thing to do, because maybe I do want to get back to it someday. But I think I'm just, as I get a bit older, just learning to pick my battles a bit, and I think that's what the younger generation of gamers are just doing, without having to worry about all this stuff. And I don't know where it comes from that our generation always likes to try and find new experiences and play new games. It's a common thing for people who are sort of gaming through the 80s and 90s, I think, and it seems like the younger generation are just happy to stick to 1 or 2 games and just play that solidly and get good at it. It's just a different way of consuming things. But I think as I get older, I've just had to come to pick my battles a little bit better and just accept that I'm not going to have time to play some of these games, even as much as I might want to, and to instead focus on spending quality time with a game like Breath of the Wild. Ultimately a handheld game, and I do spend a lot of time on trains, so I'm kind of not spending too much time with Breath of the Wild at home, because I think, you know, those 2, 4, 6 hours sometimes in a single day on trains are going to be spent beautifully playing that game. And what a game it is, truly, I mean, absolutely incredible. I don't have a huge amount to add to the amazing discussion, the amazing articles, the amazing videos, the amazing podcasts that have been out there talking about this game, from Games on Writing talking about the space in the world, from that brilliant article on Eurogamer talking about Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild as an immersive sim, you know, that kind of thing where systems interact with each other and physics and all sort of stuff like that. Yeah, I don't have huge amounts to add other than the fact that the game is, you know, truly wonderful and spectacular, and brings kind of quality and charm and sort of solidity of truly great Nintendo stuff, and brings in all that Western influence as well to create something that's, I mean, magical, I think is a word to describe it. And one of the interesting things that I like about Breath of the Wild, on top of all of that amazing stuff, is how the weapon degradation always makes you feel like the game's not your traditional power trajectory, which is so common in open world games. I'm not 100% sold on having weapons that only last one battle at a time, but at the same time, there's always the sense that you can be ill prepared for battles at any moment. So there's not the idea that 30, 40, 50 hours into the game you're just stomping through the enemies. Every single encounter matters, and every single encounter you need to be prepared for, and you need to go and have the right kit to do it. And that's a really interesting way of constantly making you feel like the wild, the open world, is a threat. And that's not something that you see in the 40th, 50th, 60th hours of most open world games, and most sort of RPGs as well. So yeah, that's an interesting little quirk and an interesting little design choice in a game that's absolutely filled with them. Another game I want to talk about, another open world game, is Ghost Recon Wildlands. And I was thinking about doing a piece about how important co-op is to that game, but I just don't think it really sustains a whole video, because it's kind of an obvious point to make. But the game has received plenty of negative press in terms of reviews and in terms of content. I would say it's a little bit, in terms of the content and the narrative and the idea of this sort of other South America, this kind of narco state, etc. I can see how some people might find it a little bit offensive. I think the writing is so ham-fisted and poor, and the fact that it is just, it's a constructed story. It's not saying that this is what Bolivia is. I don't mind it so much. To be honest, when you're playing in co-op, all of that stuff kind of goes over your head anyway, and you pay attention to zero of it. But that doesn't mean it's not in the game. So I think, ham-fisted attempt, a little bit tone-deaf, but I don't think anything hugely offensive. But then again, I'm not a Bolivian, so who's to say what sort of content could offend people? But I think it almost pays the level of writing and scripting and dialogue in the game too much credit to call it offensive, because it's just it's quite poor. But the game itself, I think, has a lot going for it. I mean, it's absolutely vast. I mean, that open world is vast, and it's really, really varied. You can be fighting on top of snowy mountains in one bit, jungle in the next, sort of jungly mountains, amazing salt flats, like sort of muddy plains, villages, really, really cool. And again, it's a game built around encounters, and it's basically, you know, the Ubisoft open world templates distilled into those encounters, which are arguably the best parts of those games, the Far Cry's, for example. And in co-op, and only in co-op, because playing with your AI squad mates really doesn't do the job. You can't really direct them in a way that you'd want to. Taking on these encounters, it's just crap, to be honest, on your own. But with at least one other person, and hopefully 2 or maybe even 3, you don't have to worry about AI squad mates, because you can just direct using voice comms. And playing this game, we've had some amazing moments where it does still feel like a Ghost Recon game, where you really are battling to, really are measuring out what's in front of you and using your drones to spot everything, and coming up with a tactical plan to try and take these enemies down. Doesn't always go according to plan, and the game does scale up in terms of chaos quite well. You can go from a meticulously measured assault where you think one person's going to snipe from here and we'll sneak through here. Something goes wrong, you make too much noise, you miss a shot, and then all hell breaks loose. And then there's sort of Unidad, as they're called, which is like, they act as the police in the game. They're actually kind of a POC, and they can start coming in, and you get a kind of wanted level, and the choppers are coming in, explosions and stuff. So it does scale up the chaos really well, but it's more than possible to do entire missions without basically ever being seen. You may get noticed when suddenly people's bodies are starting to fall to the ground, but it is possible to stay hidden, especially when you do the assaults at night. And at its best, I found it like quite thrilling and compelling. It's definitely janky, a word I don't really like to use that much, but one that describes it well. You know, you will be flying down massive cliff sides in your Jeep. There are bugs all over the place. As I said, the squad AI is terrible, but also the enemy AI can sometimes just see you from miles away from one missed shot, and your entire plan goes to shit. But there's a lot to like there. It's something I'm going to keep hold of, because I think you can jump on, do 1, 2, 3 missions, spend about an hour of the game and have a good time, and then jump off to something else. And there's so much content there, even though a lot of that content perhaps isn't worth doing. It's more like just a pick and mix. Let's do this, oh, I need to level up this, so we need to do this type of mission, let's all pile in the chopper and do it. It's fun. And that's a word I don't typically like to use as well when I'm describing games, because I don't think it offers enough for the type of experience that you're having. But basically, most of the time when you're playing Ghost Recon, you're either in sort of tense communication with your team, or you're just laughing your head off, and both of those two things are very welcome. Those two and Rocket League have been where I've been spending my time this March, and I've just got to accept that pile of shame. This has been March Madness in the truest sense of the words, and there's no way of keeping up with all that stuff. So hopefully we will have a bit of a lull over the summer and I can catch up. But if it comes to the point where I do have to miss out on even a Horizon Zero Dawn, a game I am really interested in, then so be it. Okay, that's all for this show. Just a bit of a chatty episode. Very interested in hearing about what's on your pile of shame, what you've missed out on, or how you're coping as somebody who likes to play lots of different games. How you're coping with this crazy release schedule, or are you someone who's just happy to just drill down into 1 or 2 games? Please let me know in the comments. Let's just have a chat. Like I say, nothing hugely controversial this week. That Destiny 2 second trailer was a disappointment in terms of something to discuss. So be it. Thank you very much for watching. I've been Jon Denton. This has been State of Play. If you like the idea of a channel that talks about gaming from a journalistic and industry perspective, and also celebrates the beauty and art of video games, then please do think about hitting the subscribe button. Okay, I will catch you on the next one. Peace!